did this small seaside town still have a hold on her? As a child on holidays, it was sun and the beach and family holidays and melting ice cream. But now, it was so firmly stuck back in time that it still had a well-patronised video shop. A gust of wind chilled her more deeply through her coat, and Roma examined her keys again. They represented some kind of new beginning. Not better, necessarily, not shinier, but new. That's what she needed Remarkable Bay to be. There were more keys on this key ring than she'd ever had in her life. Front screen, front door, back door, various window locks, and a storage cupboard which, the agent had assured her, she would need to keep locked if she was going to have strangers in her home. It was a completely reasonable idea to put to someone who'd just bought a run-down old guest house at the beach. The agent had probably assumed that she might be after a sea change or a renovation challenge, and would restore the old guest house to some kind of new life as a boutique hotel. He'd hinted at it, but Roma had smiled politely and never answered him. The last thing she wanted was strangers in her home, and if she was honest, she didn't want old friends or new friends or family there either. You couldn't hide if people came to stay, could you? Roma took a quick guess about which of her mysterious keys would open the front door, and on the second attempt she heard the snick of the lock. The door opened reluctantly, catching against the tattered and worn floral hallway carpet runner. With a shove of her shoulder, she managed to open the door all the way. Light streamed into the hallway in front of her. There was a room to the immediate right with an open double doorway, and she went in and dropped her heavy shoulder bag and her bunch of keys on the floor. The jangling noise echoed throughout the empty house. This might have been a living room once. Roma screwed up her nose. It was dim in the early afternoon light, and motes of dust floated in the space like tiny confetti from a ghostly welcoming parade. She checked her watch. She'd made good time ahead of the removalist truck, and it should be arriving any minute. In a more perfect world, one in which she didn't have to finish up at work and settle on the house on the same day, she might have had time to get there in advance to clean and paint and rip up carpets. But her life hadn't been perfect for a while. "This is it," she whispered to the dust and the air and the quiet. "Welcome home." She went out the front door and walked the short cement footpath to the gate. Her car was parked on the street, packed with bulging suitcases, her computer safely boxed, and precious keepsakes she couldn't bring herself to entrust to the journey to the beach in the moving van. She went to flip open the boot of her car but stopped, taking a moment to look back at her new home. The guest house would have been quite grand in the bloom of its youth. It sat on the most prominent point on Ocean Street, its 2 stories high and important, and its stonework once a symbol of expense and prestige. The wooden fretwork adorning the balcony above and the ground floor veranda was as decorative as lace on a collar, but its white paint was peeling and loose, revealing layers of ruby red and pale cream underneath. Once the well-to-do families of South Australia had spent summers in it, but the house was no adolescent now, no classic in middle age or a grand dame. Like the town, it had slowly died as other towns in the region had thrived. Remarkable Bay had become the runt of the south coast. The town and her house seriously needed love, some fool to come along and spend money to bring them back to life. And for the life of her, Roma still hadn't quite understood why the fool had to be her. She was clear about why she'd left the city. There was no gotcha moment there. But why this place? Here in Remarkable Bay. Cautious and sensible Roma Harris had never run from anything in her entire life. Until now. Roma hauled her suitcases onto the footpath and placed them in a neat row. She lugged the first case to the front door, past the black wrought iron gate and over the cracked footpath. The front door, designed to be a grand entrance, was surrounded by stained glass panels at the top and sides, thankfully still intact, and made up of intricate floral designs in pale pink and forest green. Set into the plasterwork above the door frame was a word which looked half worn away by years of salt spray and biting winds. Bayview. And then, underneath it, the date, 1916. The words and numbers were faded like a mirage or a memory, as if they'd been waiting for 100 years for someone to come along and read them. A century, Roma realised with a little smile to herself.